If you were an ancient human watching a wildfire, would you run away screaming or walk closer and think, that glowing branch looks useful? Most animals would choose running, sensible decision. But at some point, one of our ancestors did something wonderfully unreasonable. Instead of treating fire only as a monster, that ancestor began treating it like a tool. So who taught humans to control fire? Was it a genius inventor, a fearless hunter, or one confused prehistoric person who simply ran in the wrong direction? The honest answer begins with a problem. We do not know the exact day humans first used fire. There was probably no dramatic ceremony, no prehistoric patent office, and no proud inventor posing beside the first campfire. Learning to control fire was not one discovery, it was a long relationship. At first, fire came from nature. Lightning struck dry grass, volcanoes released heat, wildfires moved across forests and savannas. Early humans did not need to invent flames. Nature was producing them with extremely poor customer service. The first step may have been simple observation. After a wildfire passed, the landscape changed. Dangerous animals moved away. Some plants became easier to reach. Dead animals were left burned or partly cooked. Warm ground remained beneath the ash. Our ancestors may have discovered that fire was terrifying from a distance, but useful after it calmed down. Then came a much riskier step: taking it. Imagine carrying a burning branch away from a wildfire. There is no bucket, no protective glove, and absolutely no safety officer. One bad movement and your exciting new technology becomes a very personal emergency. Yet carrying natural fire may have been easier than creating it. A group could collect burning wood, transport it, and feed it with dry grass or branches. This distinction matters. Using fire is not the same as controlling fire. Controlling fire is not the same as making fire. A group might know how to keep flames alive without knowing how to restart them after the last ember died. In that world, the firekeeper had an important job. If the fire went out during a cold night, there was no convenience store selling matches. Someone might have to wait for the next lightning strike or search for another group with a living flame. That makes early fire less like a disposable tool and more like a demanding orange pet. It needed food, attention, protection from rain, and constant supervision, unlike a normal pet. However, it could cook dinner and accidentally eat the entire camp. Archaeologists search for evidence of this ancient relationship, but fire is a terrible witness. Ash disappears. Charcoal breaks apart. Wind moves burned material. Water rearranges sediment. Natural fires can also burn bones, stones, plants, and soil. Finding something burned beside a stone tool does not automatically prove that humans controlled the flames. It might be a campfire. It might also be the remains of a wildfire that passed through thousands of years before or after people visited. This is why the earliest dates remain controversial. Several African sites contain burned bones, heated stones, or altered sediment dating back roughly 1.5 million years. These discoveries are fascinating. But researchers still debate whether the burning was caused by humans or by natural events. The evidence becomes stronger at Wonderwork Cave in South Africa. Deep inside the cave, researchers identified burned plant material and bone associated with stone tools in deposits about 1 million years old. Because the material was found far inside the cave and showed signs of burning there, a passing grass fire becomes a much less satisfying explanation. Someone, or some group, appears to have brought fire into that darkness. That does not tell us exactly who lit it. It does not even prove they could create a flame from nothing. But it suggests early humans were already moving, using or maintaining fire around 1 million years ago. Another important clue comes from Gesher Beno Yaakov, an ancient site in what is now Israel. There, researchers found burned flint, seeds, wood, and other plant remains in several occupation layers dating to roughly 790,000 years ago. The burned material was concentrated in particular areas instead of being scattered randomly. That pattern suggests repeated fires in places where humans were living and working. In other words, this probably was not one lucky encounter with a flaming tree. Fire was becoming part of daily behavior. But here comes the cognitive twist. Knowing how to preserve fire does not prove that you know how to manufacture it. For generations, humans may have behaved like expert flame managers who still depended on nature to provide the first spark. They could feed a fire, move it, divide it, protect it, and perhaps carry glowing embers between camps. But when every ember died, the technology may have temporarily disappeared. Strong evidence for deliberate firemaking arrives much later. At Barnum in England, researchers found heated sediment, fire-cracked stone tools, and pieces of iron pyrite on a buried surface about 400,000 years old. Pyrite can produce sparks when struck against flint. and it was unusual in the local landscape. This combination suggests that ancient humans may have deliberately brought spark-producing material to the site and created fire when they needed it. That ability changed the relationship completely. Humans no longer had to wait for lightning. Fire could become scheduled technology. Hungry? Make fire. Cold? Make fire. Predators nearby? Make fire, then try to look larger and more confident than you actually feel. Fire offered warmth, light, and protection. It extended activity beyond sunset. It opened dark caves. It helped people process food and may have made some foods easier to chew and digest. Cooking was especially important, although scientists still debate exactly when it became regular enough to influence human evolution. Heat softens many foods and can release more usable energy. It can also reduce certain pathogens and toxins, instead of spending endless hours chewing something with the texture of an old sandal. Humans could let fire perform part of the work, but the campfire may have transformed more than dinner. A controlled flame creates a social center. People gather around it, faces become visible. The surrounding darkness feels farther away. Activities slow down, and attention shifts from immediate survival toward other people. Around fires, knowledge could be demonstrated. Plans could be discussed. Experiences could become stories. Children could watch adults repair tools, prepare food, and react to danger. We cannot hear those ancient conversations. But the campfire created a setting where communication and cooperation could grow, and that may be the deepest answer to the title. No single person necessarily taught humanity to control fire. Nature presented the lesson repeatedly. Lightning showed the flame. Burned landscapes revealed its effects. Curiosity brought someone closer. Hunger provided motivation. Cooperation kept the embers alive. The real invention was not fire itself. It was the growing human ability to observe a dangerous force, understand its behavior, and build routines around it. That pattern is still with us. A kitchen stove is controlled fire. A car engine uses controlled combustion. Metalworking, industry, and much of modern energy history came from learning how to release heat without allowing it to consume everything nearby. We look modern, but every time we gather around a barbecue, fireplace, or candle, we repeat a scene older than our own species. So when did humans first use fire? Possibly more than 1 million years ago. Although the earliest evidence remains disputed, by around 1 million years ago, fire appears deep inside Wonderwork Cave. By roughly 790,000 years ago, people were repeatedly using it at Gesher Beno Yaakov. By about 400,000 years ago, some ancient humans may have been producing sparks and making fire deliberately. There was no single discovery day. There were countless experiments. Burned fingers, protected embers, successful meals, and probably several moments when everyone stood silently, watching the shelter catch fire. Fire did not simply make humans comfortable. It changed where they could live, what they could eat, when they could work, and how they could gather. Perhaps humans controlled fire because fire first captured human curiosity. So who do you think truly taught us? Nature, hunger, curiosity, or one unusually brave ancestor who forgot to run?